Mega Evolution, Z-Moves, Dynamax, and Trustalization. Pokémon gimmicks have been around since Generation 6, unless you count triple battles that were Gen 5 exclusive. And while it's cool to reminisce on a previous gimmick, or to go back and dive into a previous generation to experience magic all over again, it does make you wonder which of the gimmicks are superior, which ones do really well in battle, and which ones build the world of Pokémon. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over all 4 gimmicks currently known to Pokémon. I'll be going over some good points and bad points to each gimmick, and then we'll decide which one is the absolute best and which one could use some improvement. But enough rambling, let's get onto the video. A quick thing to note is that this video will show my opinions. I'll be going over subject matter that I'll have to put my own views on. This is all just speculation at the end of the day, so anything I say isn't going to necessarily be 100% true. It's my own thoughts and feelings that I'm going to project to you guys, so hopefully you can respect that and enjoy the video. And why not let me know your thoughts down in the comment below? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So let's brief over the 4 gimmicks. We have Mega Evolution, Z-Moves, Dynamax, and Trustalization. Mega Evolution introduced some cool designs for Pokemon that already looked pretty cool as they were, and there was a lot of love given to fan favourite Pokemon. For example, not only did they look cool, but they had a change to abilities and typings. The stats were also increased, which meant that you had to really think hard on which one you wanted to Mega Evolve. Mega Evolution added a lot more lore to the Pokemon world, and in the Mega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, they introduced the multiverse theory. And then finally, this change was permanent until the Pokemon was defeated, meaning you could switch in and out freely. However, one of the drawbacks to Mega Evolution is just how exclusive it is. There are only a handful of Pokemon that get to utilise this mechanic, and because of this exclusivity, it does mean that you are restricted in battle. Compared to the other gimmicks which are more flexible, Mega Evolution does push you into a corner to commit to a certain Pokemon. Another thing you have to consider is the team preview. If you see a Charizard on the lineup, then you can almost guarantee that it will Mega Evolve during the battle, which can give you the advantage. And then finally, Mega Evolution is the only gimmick to be bypassed by Protect, and leaves the Pokemon completely vulnerable for a turn. Z-moves and Max moves go through Protect and do a bit of damage. And in terms of Trustalization, if the opponent does Protect, you at least get the defensive capabilities that changing types would do. Moving on to Z-moves now, I've got to say, obtaining them feels a lot more earned than the other gimmicks. Throughout our Sun and Moon journey, we had to earn our Z-crystals through different means, and when we did earn our Z-crystals, there was no limitation as to which Pokemon could use them, so long as they had a move corresponding to the crystal type. And just like with Mega Evolution, certain fan favourite Pokemon from the Alola region were able to get exclusive Z-moves, and similar to how wholesome the Alola region is, the lore and world building was expanded when Z-moves were introduced. They touched on a lot of aspects to do with the Pokemon and the region itself, and it really made Gen 7 feel more complete. And if that wasn't enough, Z-moves had the capabilities of breaking walls with one shot. If your opponent had set up, or if they were behind screens, Z-moves had the capability of taking them out regardless of what they had already set up prior. However, on the opposite side, one of the drawbacks of using a Z-move is that it could be shut down completely, and what I mean by that is if the opponent switches into a ground type and you use Gigavolt Havoc, then congratulations, your Z-move is going to be doing nothing. To use a Z-move, the Pokemon has to hold a Z-crystal, which takes up their item slot. And while this does make sense so that Pokemon aren't spamming Z-moves with a Choice Band or Choice Scarf, it's still a drawback since the Pokemon won't get access to another item that could actually prove better in a battle. Also, when using a Z-move, the power you draw from the original move loses its secondary effect. So for example, if you're using Thunderbolt to activate Gigavolt Havoc, then you won't have the chance to paralyse the opponent. And unlike other gimmicks, Z-moves are the only mechanic that you get to use in one turn. Once you've activated it, that's it for the battle. You get one shot to use it, otherwise you can't use it for the remainder of the battle. So if the opponent is clever and they Protect, or they bring in something with Storm Drain or Levitate, then you've practically wasted your nuke button. Now this one's a little bit more of a personal nitpick, but out of all the newly introduced Generation 7 Pokemon, only a handful were selected to have an exclusive Z-move. A lot of them were also restricted to legendaries and mythicals. I just feel as if more Alolan forms or Alolan Pokemon should have got the Z-move treatment. Let's kick Dynamax off with something simple before we get to the big stuff. The whole premise of being in a massive stadium with adoring fans, having the capability of releasing a massive Pokemon from your Pokeball, and delivering some intense blows is just hype. Not to mention that these intense blows have additional effects at the end of the animation, whether that be increasing or decreasing stats, setting up terrain, or starting weather. And again, similar to Z-moves, every single Pokemon except Zacian and Zamazenta get access to Dynamaxing. Another cool thing about Dynamaxing is that you could survive hits that you'd otherwise fail to. Your HP would double so that you could take more hits. And you could even risk using spread moves like Earthquake, or unleashing certain strategies like holding a weakness policy. And then finally, just like the other 2 gimmicks, Dynamax added a lot more lore to the Pokemon world, as well as going into the history of the Galar region. It's just nice to have a mechanic that isn't just ones and zeros, but instead adds more depth to the Pokemon world. However, one of the biggest downsides to using Dynamax is you're granted 3 turns to use it, and if you get knocked out in turn 1, then you basically wasted the mechanic. And because you only get 3 turns, you really have to commit to which Pokemon you Dynamax. Unlike the other gimmicks, you're basically locked in for 3 turns. If you switch out and switch back in, you won't be Dynamaxed. And if you burn turns using Max Guard, then you're not taking full advantage of just how much power you have. The other issue with Dynamax is just how exclusive it is to the Sword and Shield titles. During Generation 6, you're allowed to Mega Evolve in Hoenn and Kalos. And in Generation 7, you had Sun, Moon, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon to experiment different Z moves. But with Dynamaxing, because of the flop of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, as well as Legends Arceus not focusing on Dynamaxing, you're left stuck with Sword and Shield as the only games capable of allowing you to Dynamax. Not all the Pokemon are great Dynamax options either. When T-building, it was fairly easy to pick a Gigantamax option, and then there were always go-to options that players could predict a mile away. Long story short, it was very rare to see the support Pokemon Dynamaxing, and then when it was time to Dynamax, there were always balancing issues in most cases. Your opponent could overwhelm you for 3 turns, even though you had the clear advantage, and the additional buffs from things such as Max Airstream, or the residual damage from G-Max Wildfire could shut down a team instantly. Now we finally move on to Trustalization, and it's so great that every single Pokemon gets access to it. Not only does every Pokemon get access to the gimmick, but a lot of them benefit from it as well. Case in point being just how offensive and defensive the gimmick can be. One battle you might need sheer offense, so you Trustalize to get bonus stab damage from a move, and another battle you might need to survive a hit or two, so you Trustalize defensively to take a hit. Because of this feature, there's so much versatility when it comes to battling. You can Trustalize a Steel type into a Flying type so it doesn't take ground or fighting damage, while your partner Pokemon spams Earthquake and not having to worry about doing damage to the side. Or you could Trustalize a Pokemon like Goodra into a Water type. You'll get increased damage from moves such as Aqua Tail, while also only being weak to Electric if you have the Sap Sipper ability. Another cool feature about Trustalization is you don't need to have a held item to activate it. Z moves and Mega take up an item slot, while Dynamax Pokemon tend to have the same items. With Trustalization, not only do you have the freedom to test out different type combinations, but you also get to test out a range of different held items that could benefit the Pokemon in many different ways. I couldn't think much for the negatives, but if I had to choose, Trustalization is such a missed opportunity when it comes to the visual effects that they proceed. For example, when I think of Crystal Pokemon, I instantly think of the Crystal Onyx. But no, they settled for Crystal Crowns, which I guess is alright, but there was such a missed opportunity there. And I know the DLCs are right around the corner, but right now there's hardly any lore when it comes to Trustalization. It's a fantastic gimmick to use within battle, but in terms of what it provides to the Pokemon world, there's hardly anything to go off of. Paired with the unfortunate use of it within the main story, every main character you battle within the story provides little to no surprise when it comes to their ace Pokemon. The gym leaders Trustalize into their specialist type, and people like the champion and rival just Trustalize into their stab option. And one thing I will note about the new gimmick is just how annoying it is to change your Terra type. Accessing Mega Evolution, Z moves or Dynamax wasn't an issue. You get given the feature early on, and you get to use it throughout your whole gameplay, as well as the post-game. But with Trustalization, yeah, you get access to your stab moves, but to change your Terra typing into something unique, you have to collect 50 Terra Shards. This involves grinding in dens for a couple of hours, which could deter you from using a certain Pokemon. The last little nitpick I have with Trustalization is just how predictable it is. If I'm going up against a Ceruledge, I can guarantee it'll Trustalize into a Grass type, or if I'm facing Tyranitar, it'll most likely turn into a Flying type. It might just be my ability to read the field, but Trustalization can get pretty predictable, especially if you've done VGC for a while. So now we come to the reason why this video was made in the first place. Which of the 4 gimmicks is actually the best? Mega Evolution is cool and everything, but it's never really been one of my favourites. It's very exclusive, and because there's no Pokemon Z to tie it all together, it kind of just feels very empty. Plus it does take up one of your item slots, and it restricts which Pokemon you can use on your team. Therefore, I'm going to give Mega Evolutions 4th place. Z moves come in 3rd place, but if I had to rank it based on execution, it would definitely be 1st. I feel like the lore was handled amazingly. However, I felt as if the nuke button just felt cheap in some areas, especially in games that you have the clear advantage in, but then you somehow lose. Maybe I just enjoy the anime more than the actual games. Dynamax is my personal favourite. I enjoy it a lot more than the other 3 gimmicks. However, I must admit that even this amazing gimmick isn't the greatest. Any Pokemon can use it, and it's such a spectacle to see what you can come up with in doubles. But I understand that it's slightly unbalanced, and it can feel one-sided at times. Trustalization, though, feels more deserving of the best gimmick. It's versatile, it's adaptable, and the amount of strategies and gameplays you can come up with is unbelievable. It feels a lot more balanced, and you'll never know when your opponent will Trustalize, or whether or not it will decide the game. I think we can all agree that this is the best they've come up with so far, but if you disagree, then that's fair enough. If you've got your own personal ranking, or if you've given them different positives and negatives, then let's get discussion going, and let's explain how certain gimmicks have impacted your gameplay. Or if you feel as if I've been too critical, then constructive criticism is always welcome. Please make sure to like and subscribe as well. And until next time, train hard, team build to the best of your abilities, and I'll see you in the next video.